Hello everyone, I hope all of you are doing good. So today I thought I'll make a video on Forge. Now recently someone asked me, and for some reason in the last couple of months I've seen a lot of people asking this question or want to know more about app development in Jira. Now when you want to develop apps in Jira, of course the recommended platform is Forge, and Forge is, of course, not really new. It has been there, I think, for 4 years, I believe. I think 4 years ago I made a video on Forge where I tried something, and it is still not great. You can't really do each and everything using Forge, but Atlassian is trying really hard. They are adding new features to Forge. They are adding a lot of capabilities, and I believe recently, I will probably talk about it separately. Recently, I think they added a lot of new modules in Forge. Now, the topic of the video is what skills you need to have to get started with Atlassian Forge development. For example, you may want to develop apps in Jira. You may want to develop apps for Confluence, right? Maybe you want to develop robo agents, right? So you obviously want to know where to start, how to start. Now, talking about the skills, because many people, and by the way, this information is not really very clear if you go to Atlassian website, if you go to developer portal, and I thought, of course, and I'll share, because in our company we have been developing regular apps using Atlassian Forge. So we know and we are actually qualified. I'm qualified to make this video and talk about it. So basically you need to know NodeJS, number one. NodeJS is important because NodeJS is basically the main technology. So when you talk about Forge, when you talk about developing apps using Forge, you would be basically doing NodeJS development. So if you are someone who already has NodeJS experience, then you can develop Forge apps. It is actually not that difficult. Like sometimes people want to know, yes, I know Node.js, but how do we get started? So it is not difficult at all. I'll probably talk about it very briefly. So Node.js is the main technology. Forge platform is actually built on Node.js. So if you have been developing apps on, or not maybe some apps, maybe you have been doing some development using Node.js, you have the right skill. And to take your app development to the next level, you also need to use React. So React, as you know, that it is of course nothing but JavaScript based framework, and you need to use React to create wonderful UI. And you don't really need to use React always. If you want, you can just use Forge, and without using React you can do development, but it is not great. In Forge, there is something called as custom UI. Custom UI is basically a module, a way for you to develop Forge apps, but using your own React-based UI. And in most cases, you would need to use React because it will make your life a lot more easier, like development-wise, because React is, of course, very popular. There's plenty of information online. Just to give you a simple example, let us say you want to create a list of issues, right? And those list of issues, you want to make it sortable by issue key, or maybe by the date of your issue creation. So of course you can do it yourself if you want, using your own table in HTML, JavaScript, CSS. But if you're using React, then your life will be much more simpler. So definitely using it is easy. You will find a lot of information online, which of course you can reuse. So what I'm saying is that if you know React and Node.js, if you have been working on it, then you can easily get started with Jira Forge development. And of course, not just Jira, but also Confluence. Maybe you want to, as I mentioned, create apps for other Atlassian products, because Forge is actually not only focused on Jira and Confluence. So apart from Node.js and React, there are of course a few other things that you need to learn and you need to know. And the third thing would be, of course, the knowledge of the application, basically Jira, right? So if you don't really know how Jira works, then of course you can learn it. But what I'm saying is that if you want to get started, you will be of course interacting with Jira data, and you need to know how Jira works. And you can actually do it and take your time. Like, you don't have to like know Jira very well on day one. For example, let us say if you join our company Sparksys, and by the way, we are hiring. If you are a Node.js developer, if you have experience with React, reach out to us. If you don't have Jira experience, don't worry about it. So the thing is, what you need to do, you just need to know how to interact with Jira using REST API, because that is how Node.js, or basically in this case Forge, works. You will basically be interacting with Jira by making a REST call. For example, you may want to create an issue, right? When you create an issue using your own custom Forge app, you can of course create your interface, and then you can click on a button. So when you create a new interface, you need to know what fields are there in your project in that particular issue type. You need to fetch those fields using REST API. So you need to know what APIs to call in Jira, and you need to of course know REST API. So third skill is Jira, like, or the application. It could be Confluence, it could be Jira, it could be something else, but basically the product or application knowledge. And the fourth skill is REST API, which is really important. So if you know Node.js, if you know React, if you know Jira, Confluence, and of course REST API, then you're good. And of course there are a lot of other things that you need to know. It depends on what you're trying to do, depends on the use case, whether you're developing an app for the marketplace, or maybe you're developing an app for your customer. We have been developing apps, private Forge apps for our clients, because we don't want to publish those apps, and those apps are actually built for a specific use case. So these apps, of course, all the skills that I talked about, we use those skills, we use those technologies, but it also depends on what exactly you're trying to do, or what problem you're trying to solve. For example, you may want to integrate Jira with, let us say, ServiceNow, right? Maybe you want to integrate Jira with some other internal tool. Maybe you want to integrate Jira with some custom data lake, right? And you want to basically have some triggers in Jira. So apart from these main skills, depending upon the case, depending upon the problem, with experience you will come to know what else you need to know. So if you're someone who is trying to learn or get into Jira or Atlassian app development, these skills are of course the main skills, but I'm also making this video for someone who is actually trying to maybe build a Forge or Jira app capability in their company. For example, you may be a small freelancer, maybe you're a small company and you want to get into Jira app development, and you're not really sure what skills you want to focus on for yourself and maybe for your employees, or maybe for your potential target hires. So if you're trying to hire someone, basically look for these skills that I talked about. And I think the main thing, to be honest, is in the beginning Node.js and React along with REST API. If you know these three things, then I think you're good. You can skip the product knowledge in the beginning, because you can always train someone. For example, if you hire my team, I can always train you, I can get you trained on Jira, and I can always tell you what endpoints to call to do something with Jira. But having that basic core Node.js, React, and REST API knowledge is crucial. So that is all I wanted to talk about in this video. By the way, these days I am really busy, so I'm making this video while I'm traveling. I hope you will appreciate the hard work, and do consider subscribing to my channel, Ravi Sagar. Alright, that is it. That is all I wanted to share in this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you learned something new. Thank you very much. Bye bye.